My God, dude. I'm round the corner. Come on. Thank you. Oh my God. What the What are you talking about?
Battlefield 6 damage is kinda broken, and more than just saying it, I have proof. Proof that the game actually provides if you dig into the settings, and I'll show you my findings, and I'll show you how you can do it for yourself. Plus, I'll go over a few other things that really break the experience of BF6 right now. You have 3 options today. 1, if you're watching this before December 9th, 2025, you can complain about everything you see today and your own experiences in the comments. Go nuts. 2, if you're watching this after the patch for BF6 on December 9th, you can tell me how much things have improved from what you're seeing here in this video. Or 3, if it's after December 9th and there are still huge issues, you can again complain, but even more so. Let's dive into this. Since release, Battlefield players have been complaining about their damage not landing consistently, that it feels like it takes longer to drop enemies than it reasonably should do a lot of the time. In fact, a lot of Battlefield fans have been crying out for better netcode and server performance for a great many years across the franchise, but it just seems especially bad at release in Battlefield 6. Well, here's a graph that Battlefield 6 provides, and it's a graph that showcases how many hits register client side, as in at your end, and how many hits register server side, so hits that actually count despite what you might be seeing. Spoiler, the numbers aren't even. Now you may feel that of course they're not going to be even. This is an online game and things are never perfect, and I totally agree, but it's far more uneven than you'd likely expect, certainly more than I expected, or at least pre-December 9th patch. Now if you think this is an interesting start to the video, consider if you'd like to subscribe to the channel and boost me towards 100k subs finally and see a lot more content. Thank you very, very much. So with that big patch coming, or even being here at the time you watch this video, it gives this video the opportunity to not just be informative but also positive, as long as the patch is good. So how bad at the time of making this video is the disparity between the client hits and the server hits? Well, it's pretty bad. At least I think so. I spent a whole stream testing it. I had good ping and no connection issues from my end. I also have good wired internet, etc. So great testing conditions. You'll see the graph on the left hand side of the gameplay, and I generally found that around 1 in 10 hits didn't count by the end of whatever life I had. So yes, around 10%, maybe slightly better, but not by much. And with it generally taking 3 to 5 shots to kill an enemy, you start to get an idea of just how much this can actually affect your gameplay, and mine, and the person you're playing against, and everyone else. The way I'd put it is that the hits you see, or think you see, are more like a suggestion of what's happening, a somewhat light suggestion, and not actually representative of what's taking place. Again, this is always the case in online games, but even more so here. And this can be especially punishing in a game with such a quick TTK or TTD, so time to kill and time to death. On a really extended, drawn out gunfight on a different game, a bullet failing to register here and there might not be a huge deal, but in a game where people are dropping as quickly as in BF6, a missed bullet can make a huge difference and make the gunfight also feel very different. You get used to how long it takes to drop an enemy, you know how many rounds, you get a feel for that. That not taking place when it should do is very noticeable and can really throw you off. So before I give you more information, how can you test this yourself if you want to? Well, you go to your settings in BF6, you go down to the system tab, you scroll all the way down to the bottom of that and go to network graph, you enter into there, and then you scroll down to show event graph and you turn that on. Very simple. But why does this all happen? Well, I don't know the absolute ins and outs, and I'm not actually working on the game, of course, at least not in that fashion, and I'm not privy to what the actual flaws are in the system, but I do know that tick rate is a huge aspect of how reliable an online game feels. This is how often the server checks for things such as damage. Commonly available information states that Battlefield 6 has 60 Hz servers for the main modes with 30 Hz in Portal, and a dynamic variant for RedSec, which starts at 30 Hz and then switches to 60 Hz for the end of the game. Now this is overall better than some games, at least the 60 Hz is, but also worse than others. Warzone, for example, apparently has 20 Hz servers, with some modes potentially having 30 to 40. And then there's other games out there with much higher. How large a factor it plays in the issues we see in BF6 will be somewhat unknown to us, but it stands to reason that boosting the tick rate would help a lot with reliability. Whether this is likely to happen is another matter, and honestly, it's doubtful. Maybe one day on a later Battlefield title, but it also seems reasonable to say that it isn't necessarily the absolute crux of the issues, considering there are plenty of games at 60Hz that don't seem to have the wild unreliability of Battlefield 6. Now, I don't know what the industry standard for online FPS hit detection is, nor do I know what the average is. If you're an expert on these matters or have previous pertinent game design experience, please let me know. But I'd like to think it's a lot better than what I've seen and what you're seeing. And this must be deemed an actual problem for Battlefield Studios to be working on improving it and publicly stating as much. I hope they absolutely nail it. I also hope that one day Battlefield won't be a franchise absolutely weighed down by such issues every single time. I mean, I've spent a long time lamenting how ping issues were such a huge negative aspect of BF1 while I waited for BF6 to release, where the enemy having bad ping didn't just affect them, but everyone trying to kill them, with a seemingly massive disparity between what the engagement looked like for them and for you. Playing on bad ping is terrible, I get it, but it shouldn't make it worse for the people you're playing against as well. And that brings me to a wider point. The hit detection is one thing, so what about the overall netcode? The dying around corners, the desync between players, the potential memory leak, the lack of a server browser so that players get placed in games where their ping is bad when otherwise they might not, and so on and so forth. Can this all be suitably cleaned up in a relatively short time frame to have BF6 looking and playing like the great game I certainly feel it can be? How high is that mountain? How steep is that climb? How expensive are some of the requirements, and are those expenses going to be deemed worthwhile? It's absolutely encouraging that there are clear indications of fixing up the netcode experience, and I truly believe that they want the game to be good. It's now just a case of waiting to see how good. What's the max ceiling that this game can hope to reach? How high will it be allowed to reach? But what else is heavily holding the game back right now? Well, there's matchmaking, but that's a topic in its own right, and will deserve another video on its own soon if something doesn't significantly change for it, especially from a console or niche mode player perspective. And I don't believe it's something being lined up for any changes in the December 9th patch anyway, so instead, here's a small but annoying one. The defibrillators are broken, as you've already seen today. They didn't work reliably at launch, then they got patched to be fixed but they became more broken, then it seemed to get a bit better, but now it seems to be absolutely awful again. No idea what's going on with those, but as an avid support player, I hope it gets fixed up very soon so I can get back to reviving my teammates properly without blasting them 2, 3, 4 times and risking even more death. But now, two much more important ones. Firstly, audio. This is being actively worked on for the patch, which is music to my ears. At least that's a bit of a pun, accidental. How did I not pick that up in the script? At least I hope it ends up that way. I'm totally done with not hearing things around me. Sometimes a vehicle is super quiet, sometimes an enemy will be silent, they got slippers on, sometimes 4 enemies sprinting up behind me won't make any noise until the very last second. It's just not good enough. Battlefield has so much randomness anyway, not getting key pieces of audio just compounds the issue of a lack of control. It's so far off where it needs to be with every single available audio setting, it doesn't seem to matter that much. Let me hear things around me properly. And number 2, which is also being worked on, is visibility. The viability of seeing enemies. I've done 2 guides on this already. They're on my channel. I'll try to remember to link the latest one in the description if you're interested in improving your visibility. If it's not down there, just find it on my channel page. But even I struggle to 1, see prone enemies, even when they should be extremely obvious based on their position, and 2, be able to tell what's a prone enemy and what's a body, plus some other visibility issues as well. Now throw these visibility issues on top of the audio issues, on top of the hit detection, memory leak, netcode, desync, and also some wild spread on some weapons with some movement, and you've got a very fatiguing set of circumstances when you just want to play a fun Battlefield game. If this stuff gets fixed up, BF6 could be extremely fun, and I hope it will be. Do let me know how things are feeling at the time of watching this video. I also hope you enjoyed, as always. If you did, it would be great if you do me a favor and like the video to help it to do well, especially if this is a topic you're passionate about. And again, consider subscribing if you haven't, so you can see my content in your feed more often. Patreon is in the description if you want to support the continuation of content on this channel. Thank you for any signups over there, and YouTube is now suggesting another video of mine to you that it thinks you'll like. I'll see you over there.